Aloha and welcome to Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics. I am Geralyn St. Joseph and I am the moderator. This is a meetup and we have people from all over the world. Today's meetup is about shamanism, and later on in the meetup we will be meeting with Shaman Christopher, who is a Toltec shaman, and he is currently residing on the West Coast. He will be here in a little while, but until he gets here, let's start answering some questions or asking some things. I know we do a lot of shamanic journeying in my classes, and when I do different things, I find it a very effective way to get people really deep into their space and into their stuff. It also allows for, I'm going to call it movement, because when you do that type of work, basically what you do is you create the space, you set the space, and you could do that energetically or you could do that physically. I know people who put like crystals or candles, or they do the salt or sand, where they have a special area that they go into. I generally use energetics, although I love using crystals too, but often I'm talking to people who are at a distance, so it's not really practical. And then once you set the space, then you open up and you take them on a journey. You take them somewhere where they're going to meet a guide or a guardian, or they're going to meet their ancestors. I think Shaman Christopher may take us to meet our ancestors today. I'm not sure. I know that's a good one that he does. And anyone who's taking classes with me will see his influence on me, because he did teach me how to do those types of things. Shaman work with all kinds of tools, and sometimes they don't work with any tools. So things from feathers to drums to rattles, as I said, salt, sand. One of the things when we were doing the full moon ceremony that we did very often was we would use tobacco as an offering and cornmeal. So Christopher can describe this better than I can, but the cornmeal as an offering was like earth and plenty, and the tobacco is like cleansing. And you would throw that into the fire along with, like, we would write things down, and depending on where the moon was and what was happening astrologically, we would set different intentions for each full moon. And we would gather. So when you talk about the moon cycles, you can do the new moon, the full moon. Those are the two that most people know about and will participate in. But you could also do the different quarter moons, like the different phases of the moon. When you're doing the new moon, because that's called the dark moon is, you're there and you're talking about what you want to bring into your life. So what do you want to manifest as it becomes brighter? What do you want to find? What do you want to see? Because the light gets shed on things. Also in the dark moon, it's easier to discover things that are hidden. Like, you can bring things out and into greater focus. If you're trying to figure something out, a dark moon will help you do that. Then you have the full moon. And when we have the full moon, oftentimes what we would do is, those were things we wanted to release. So if you wanted to release pain, I remember, as Shaman Christopher used to say, I release anything unlike love. So I want only the highest and greatest good for myself and those around me. And you would do that type of a thing. And it can be very profound and help people really discover what direction they want to go in and what's really happening with them. If they have other things that they need to seek out and figure out. Then the other side of that is, after we would do the fire and the fire would start to die down, then we would gather in a circle, and sometimes we would have drumming, sometimes we did not have drumming, because I have no rhythm apparently. I'm a good dancer though, I swear. because I just, for whatever reason, I'd have a rhythm for a little while and then I'd just lose it. So I was not good at that. So I would hold the space and Christopher would take us on the journey, and we would ask different questions and discover different things. Oftentimes we would go to meet our elders, or we would go to meet our ancestors, and they would give us information that we needed to move forward in whatever it was we were trying to endeavor, or give us some information as to what direction we needed to go in, whatever it was we needed to know. You would go down and they would give you a gift. Now, there were some people who would not have the same experience. So like if you have 20 people in a room, you might have 18 who all have the same experience or similar experiences. Like they'll go down, they'll see their elders, it's going to be their grandmother, it's going to be like somebody who's further back in the lineage. But then you'll have a couple people who just have a completely different experience, and that is fine. So if we do go into a journey towards the end, remember, whatever journey you're on is fine. You don't have to follow everybody else. You need to follow whichever way your guidance is taking you. So if it's taking you on a slightly different road, that's fine. So don't feel like there's something wrong with that. The other thing that I discovered not that long ago is a medical thing. So most people have what we call a mind's eye, and they can visualize and they can see things. Not everyone does. About 10% of the population, possibly more, does not have a mind's eye. So either they cannot imagine things in their head at all. They may only hear sounds. It might be words and things like that. That's okay too. If you don't visually see it, but you feel it and you sense it, or you hear something, however you receive your information is fine. That's good. You just need to go with the flow and not be concerned about what anybody else is thinking, feeling, seeing, or doing. It's not a competition. We also had people in the group who may not get anything while we were doing the journey. And then that night or the night after have like crazy dreams and be calling us like, what does this mean? So it may come to you later, and that's okay too. What everyone needs to understand is that whatever it is that you experience, your experience is valid. It's not a competition. It's not about like, this person does it better than me. It's about being open to whatever spirit wants to show you, or whatever gifts you have to open up, because we are all unique. So we experience things a little bit differently, and we may understand things a little bit differently. When he comes, I may ask him about like what type of terminology. If he uses certain terminology, I'll ask him to explain. So for instance, like, what does shaman mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean like in the dictionary? And what are the standards of being a shaman or practicing as a shaman? Are there standards? Because I know as these things became more Western and it's been taken over by, I'll call it the metaphysical movement and whatnot, there's completely different standards. So you don't necessarily have the same types of lineages. They still exist. However, it's not that, like Wanda was saying with her shamanic Reiki, that someone recently has either discovered or created this, or termed this phrase, that this is what they're going to call it because this is what it feels like to them, and that feels correct to them. And more as we move forward, a lot of these different practices, belief systems, metaphysical communities, whatever you want to call it, they're merging. So just like shamanic Reiki is a merge of Reiki, which is a Japanese, comes from a Japanese healing modality. That's an energetic healing modality. And shamanism is actually a worldwide, they don't all use that particular word, but it is the practice of shamanism, the medicine woman, the medicine man, the priest, the priestess, that is worldwide in all cultures it's seen throughout time. So those are two that are a little bit different because one's a little more specialized than the other. So those are things that I would like to discuss once Shaman Christopher gets here. And guess what? He's here. I'm going to stop the recording for a moment. We are back. So, Shaman Christopher, yay! So
please, Christopher, please just call me Christopher. It's a little pretentious, you know. I'm like not one of those pretentious people. Please don't do that. Just,
Well, I always call you David Christopher. I'm trying to get the shaman in there instead of saying David.
You know, it's like, yeah.
So we do have a bunch of questions. I was sending you some questions during the week as we got them. One of the questions is, what are the different shamanic practices? Do you know of different types of shamanism and what makes it shamanism?
Well, you know, the whole shaman or shamanism is kind of a generic term, so you got to be careful. I can't speak for other people and cultures and traditions. I can only kind of speak about my own personal experience, really, from authority. I mean, I could speak like generically, so I don't, you know, I don't want to cause any offense. But, you know, a shaman, or, you know, shamanism is kind of an intermediary between worlds, you know, between the seen and the unseen, and helping people understand and get in contact with that part. You know, so that's kind of what I do. People have questions about things that they can't quite explain, you know, about, you know, what they're feeling or seeing, you know, we talk about a lot of those things. And then Geralyn's participated quite a few times with me on full moons in Hawaii, and you know, from strangers, friends of friends that just showed up, and I give them an experience of kind of the unseen, you know.
I was just explaining about the full moon ceremonies to them. And that,
yeah, I mean,
whatever your experience is, it's valid. Whether you see something or you don't see something, whether you hear it, whether you feel it, whether you have a dream that night, it's all a part of the process that you pick things up differently, and that's okay. So you are a Toltec shaman, correct?
Yeah, I trained somewhat in that tradition, but I was very fortunate that my teachers were not real strict traditionalists in the sense that you have to do it this way. They said, take what works for you, make it your own. I also trained, you know, with a kahuna, and pretty much she was also quite okay with that, you know, outside of a tradition, but at the same time, you know, allowing you the freedom to kind of take what works for you and making it your own. You know, some other places, learnings, teachings, you know, very traditional. This is the way you do it. And this is the way I taught you, and you got to maintain this. And it works for them, you know, but that wasn't going to work for me, you know. So yeah, you know, people ask me a question. I can't like really speak with authority except my own personal experience. But yeah, I've been very fortunate that you know, a lot of flexibility in the way I was taught and what I do.
Okay. So, are there any unique beliefs, characteristics, or practices that make it shamanism versus just being a spiritual practice, or is it like more nebulous?
Wow, really tough question, you know.
Yeah.
One of my teachers, you know, she often said that, you know, once you dive deep, it's all the same. We're only separated by language. You know, we have different names for different things. And then as I've shared with other shamans through other cultures, and it's like, you listen to them talk, and you sense what they're talking about, because oftentimes, especially in English, there's not a lot of terms for the experiences. So you end up just kind of nodding, but you have a feeling with this other person that they've had a similar experience. There's a synchronicity of vibration of thought that carries across language that, you know, it's just the other person, you feel familiar or comfortable with what you're discussing. And even though you don't have quite the words for it, you know, yeah, it's quite amazing. To have those kinds of experiences of just shared acknowledgement of, yeah, this person is special to you because they've had similar experiences. Hi, how you doing? You're not Geralyn.
Oh, I don't know what you're looking at.
I don't know, something in the feed kind of crossed signals there. With some gentleman, he had a looked like a college alumni shirt on or something.
Okay.
Oh, there he is. I can't say. Oh, Philadelphia, is that it? There you go. Oh, hey. Philadelphia Eagles. There you go. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Okay, we are trying to do this part, and then we'll go on to have like actual questions being asked. And that part I generally don't record unless I get everybody's permission to record it. So a lot of the questions are the same about if you're aligned with a specific religion or do you serve a specific community. I believe that answer is no, not really.
You know, I had a mom who would often park me on Sundays and my brothers at a local church, you know, a community church that tended a lot of them tended to be kind of Protestant, you know. So, you know, I'm kind of versed in you know, yeah, a lot of basic Bible teachings and studies, you know, and then I also studied for a while self-realization fellowship techniques. You might have heard Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda. So yeah, studied a little bit of his teachings. But yeah, I don't really kind of align myself with a particular following or religion, you know. Once you dive deep, you know, it's pretty much all the same. Tools and techniques vary from teacher to student to tradition, but the results is somebody you're working with or for, are they getting better? Do they feel more empowered, more free in their lives? You know, less pain, less sadness, more joy, more love. Are they able to, you know, expand outwards, you know? And that's kind of what we're looking for. I can't, like, you know, close off myself to a tradition if it doesn't serve all those realms by saying, oh no, this is the religion, this is the path I walk. You know, try not to be, you know, I very much try not to be dogmatic about any of my beliefs, because as soon as I kind of hold firm to a belief, something might come along and knock it out of me, you know. So, you know. Well, you know, it can be painful to have your belief system challenged, you know, so you always got to be aware of when you have an emotional reaction to something, you know, it's like, is there a negative or limiting belief in this? Or is there something that I'm afraid of? And if I say yes, then I have to really kind of look at it and embrace it and find out what's on the other side. And that's how I try to move forward in my life.
True that. So there's two lines of questioning. One is like, how do you know if you're called to be a shaman? How do you find the right teacher and that type of thing? And then the other side is more esoteric, like talking about working with the angels and working metaphysically, spiritually, versus working with the earth energies and about what is divine and things like that. So I'm going to go with the more mundane questions first and then get into the more esoteric, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so what does the day in the life of a shaman look like?
Well, I wake up, go to the bathroom, go get some coffee. You know, it's pretty much, and then I head off to my day job that pays, you know, the majority of my bills, which is, I don't know if you can tell, but I got like a fluorescent green t-shirt on, you know, and I'm quite tan because I work outside in the construction industry. So yeah, kind of your regular average Joe if you didn't ask me anything like, how do you do an exorcism? Which most people usually don't.
We thought that green glow is just like your bright aura.
My aura has fluorescent day glow, green.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have some practices, some prayer, meditation, and then mindful of my thought process. But, there's nothing super special that I do. I once had.
How do you work with people? Like what types of things do you do with people? Like with clients, like do clients generally come to you once or twice, or are they mostly students, or what does that?
Well, that's a good question. Sometimes, my students are my clients. Sometimes clients do become students. And then there are some people that after, 1 or 2 sessions, 3 sessions, they don't come back, which means I've been doing my job because I've fixed their problem and empowered them along the way so that they don't feel like they need to come back. And sometimes that healing takes place and then they want to know more, and I have an apprentice. Basically it started because we had a conversation about migraine headaches and I told her what I thought it was. And then 2 weeks later she goes, wow, that really works. What else can you teach me? And and it went from there. But it's not typical, somebody that has a simple medical problem. I had a bit of a relationship with her before, but when she asked me that question, there was a comfort in that I could typically read and scan her in that moment and just have a simple conversation that I could go ahead and really dive into, a quick diagnosis and a quick lesson for her that she ran with. Sometimes it'd be like, yeah, I got a migraine. I'd be like, yeah, okay, take some aspirin, call your doctor, because it's, like that. But there's a synchronicity involved too with certain things. But and then I have people that have been students for years and I haven't talked to in a few years, and then they call me up and say, hey, what's going on? And I said, well, it's just energy on the planet shifting. So you want to, a few lessons. And they're like, yeah, okay. So we schedule some, private coaching sessions, which Western term, and we'd get introduced to some new energies. Geralyn can tell you about some of the latest and greatest things that we've kind of pulled out of the ethers, or I don't know if I could say pulled out of the ethers, but have kind of been knocking on my consciousness, I could say, asking to be made aware of. And so a lot of ground to cover there between students, clients, just in general.
So how did you know that you had the calling to become a shaman or to follow like the Toltec shamanism? And how would a person know that they have a calling like that? How does that come up?
Well, I can only really speak for myself personally. I've heard in some traditions that, people often suffer, a great illness, and then they go to a healer, and then, they ended up apprenticing to that person. Or
like a migraine person.
Well, it wasn't quite sort of that thing, but for me, it was, I was early 20s. And at the time, I had a marriage that wasn't doing too well. So I went ahead and looked for a family therapist counselor. And so I made an appointment with her. And after seeing her a couple times, I had an awakening experience in her office. I mean, I thought I was having a heart attack at the time. She goes, yeah, there was a big blockage. I'm like, okay. And I think after that session, about 2 or 3 sessions later, I ended up waking up in the middle of the night, and there was this bright white light glowing over me. And I kind of woke up my wife, told her I had this dream, and she was like, okay. And then was overcome by this force that was just terrifying and magical. And and that was kind of my awakening experience. And then all of a sudden,
I have read some traditions like you get struck by lightning, not once, 3 times. No, thank you. That seems kind of harsh. That's a hell of an initiation. Like, ow.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't recommend it.
How did you find your teacher?
Well, it was pretty much my first wife. She was just kind of wandering around doing sales calls, and the synchronicity was that she walked in this woman's office and grabbed a business card. And, you know, we were having, at the time, some marital problems. So she said, let's go see this person. She's a counselor. I'm like, sure, why not? So, yeah, just synchronicity, fate, destiny, what do you want, karma, whatever you want to call it. But after working with her, I mean, I didn't know she was a shaman. She didn't bill herself as that. She was just, you know, family counselor, therapist. I'm like, okay. And then after a few sessions, you know, I was asking more about herself. And yeah, that's how I found out what she does, and went from there. And then after working with her for a little while, yeah, my intuition just kind of like skyrocketed. You know, it was almost like a voice just pounding inside my head and in my chest, go here, go there, do this, do that. You know, now it's a lot more subtle. You know, you pay attention to it when it's subtle, because if you don't, it gets louder and louder till it's like screaming at you. And you ignore it, as we say, at your own peril, because if you do, something, I wouldn't say bad happens, but something that can make you really uncomfortable for a little while can, yeah.
Gets a little more expressive. So
yeah.
if someone was asking you, like, how do you find the right teacher? And then the second part of that question is, what does shamanic training look like? Like, is there a specific way that the training happens? And I know you only know your particular type, but I guess people want to know, like, what do they look for to know that their teacher is the right teacher for them?
Wow. You know, there's no wrong teacher.
Wait until we get to the esoteric ones.
Those are the easy ones. Oh, you know, finding the right teacher. There are no wrong teachers. It's just that some might be more challenging than others. Because if you really understand that everything has a lesson, although you might not understand that lesson, you know, 20 or 30 years down the road, and it might kind of, at the first bite and swallow, it might be kind of bitter going down. So yeah, I've had a few teachers that have, kind of, like I said, the first bite or swallow, and it's been kind of bitter lessons, but, you know, 10, 20 years of hindsight, it's like, wow, they were great. But if you're looking for a teacher, I would say, you know, somebody that really kind of honors, respects you. You know, sometimes some teachers, you know, they're out there, and I kind of quote unquote, call them teachers. You know, they're looking for students and money and control. So if they're too controlling and they're too demanding on, you know, not very clear on, you know, the financial picture, that, you know, you're going to be sucked into more and more classes that just keep getting more and more expensive, and they're trying to control you, you know, yeah.
It's the power dynamic. You have to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of a
manipulation.
A manipulative power dynamic. Yeah. Be careful, you know, but.
And like David Christopher said, like, the whole point of these teachings is to help empower you so that you can go out and help other people as well as yourself. And if you feel drained after working with someone, and I'm not talking about tired because something was difficult one day, I'm talking about feeling drained or stunted or held back, that is a good cue that you're probably not working with the right person, or you may not be working with someone who is the right energetic fit for you. They may be, you know, doing it for different reasons.
Now, I just want to qualify that. A good teacher, they're going to make you upset. They're going to piss you off. They're going to make you angry, because they're going to be a catalyst for making you look at your limiting belief structure. And now with neuroscientists being able to image your brain in real time and see how it fires, they actually know that when your belief systems are challenged, the pain centers of your brain actually light up. You know, and that's why some people actually get really violently angry when, you know, their belief systems are confronted, because you're actually making people in pain. And, you know, a lot of my training has been to understand where your beliefs come from and how to move through them so that you're not stuck. Enlightened masters, they have untangled that whole energy, the emotional energy and their beliefs, so that they just have that energy free rather than a belief tied to an action. If I push button A, I'm going to feel this way. So they could just go ahead, oh, that's a button. But guess what? There's no energy coming off of it. They have the ability to have all that energy to themselves. And that's how they do magic. They do miracles because they've freed their whole being pretty much up of, belief structure that limits their energy flow. And the idea is to remove all of that. And then your intake of energy from the divine source, is pretty much unlimited. And that's why I talk about embracing your fear and the other side's power. It's like, yeah, you can dissolve that limiting belief structure and allow more energy from the divine cosmos to flow into you.
Yes.
Hopefully that makes sense. It's
very empowering, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you're not going to have any bumps in the road, but it's a different dynamic and a different feeling, sensation, physically and otherwise, when you're with somebody who's supporting you through those things.
Yeah, a lot of controlling, manipulative teachers will keep you angry and excited because at first it feels kind of powerful, but at the same time they're draining that energy and they're just using that heightened energy state to kind of manipulate and control you, versus having a teacher kind of point out something that is a limited belief structure and kind of creating a dynamic for you, requiring you to take a look at it. So if you're continuously always angry and pissed off at the teacher, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to stick around and hang out with them. But occasionally, a teacher will challenge you and require you to, kind of dive deep into what is your belief system.
Yeah, it sounds true. And that's a good way for us to segue into the esoteric stuff.
Okay.
So, does the unseen experience also come from divinity? So when you talk about the seen and the unseen and going, doing journeys and that type of thing, does the unseen experience also come from divinity?
Divinity?
Yes. So you have people who make a division between earth-based things and then like a divine intervention, I guess. There's earth-based things, and then you have things coming from the higher realms, or whatever you want to call it. People like to separate them. We know that everything is basically together. But is there a difference between the energetic, when you're talking about like the earth energies and the earth magics, than dealing with like angels and that kind of thing?
Wow. People are just splitting hairs. If you really kind of go to a certain point, it's all light. And then as you move from light, it breaks down into, kind of positive and negative light. And then now, as you go break it down some more, different colors of light, and then vibration, and then sound, and then, manifestations of that have a consciousness, the consciousness of, a demon versus an angel. And then as that energy coalesces and forms, it becomes the planets, and those planets break down into a type of consciousness of itself. And then that planetary consciousness breaks down into earth spirits, and, and then there's different planes of energy that, you would call the divine angelic realm, but it all exists in the kind of same time space continuum. I use for a shamanic journey, what's called the axis mundi in some scholarly language. Basically it's a way to connect our consciousness, an exercise, and to bridge those different connections from or worlds. So Geralyn, I don't know if she's mentioned or have you mentioned, like when we do the journeys, we talk about traveling through a tree?
I didn't say exactly what it was, but I said we might do one.
But yeah, so you'll see in some spiritual traditions, they worship a tree. And it's a metaphor for something that connects spiritual realms from the earth to the heavens, you know, and on some subconscious belief level, it makes sense. So we'll you know, if we do a shamanic journey, you end up with you know, using the tree as a metaphor, but it makes sense to our conscious and subconscious mind. Because if you look at it, at say a tree and a root system and a branch and leaf system, it just looks like also our nervous system. So you reference that into some like Nordic traditions, Nordic shamanic traditions, they talk about that. And at the same time, in the Christian Bible, it talks about the tree of life. It talks about the nervous system. So yeah, there's all these kind of myths and metaphors that overlap. And once you start diving into the world, then you see, oh yeah, that's kind of an abstract concept of, you know, a myth and metaphor for us to kind of connect with those different realms. Yeah, so just different flavors of energy that have a different specific purpose for being, you know, and hopefully I'm making sense. You know, it's one of those things that I don't know, different people's trainings and readings and experiences, you know, so I'm trying to keep it as easy to understand as possible for a general public without really kind of diving into specifics for like a training.
Yeah. So are you willing to do a little journey for us?
Right now?
I don't know if right now, do you guys, if you have other questions you want me to ask, please put them in the chat. And if you want a journey right now, then put that in the chat too. Just put journey or yeah. So that we know what the consensus is at the moment. So what consists of a journey, or what constitutes a journey?
A daydream could be a journey. Basically, we're taking our consciousness, our you know, waking consciousness, and focusing our attention somewhere else and having an experience. Now there's you know, more and more sophisticated techniques and tools to journey, and you know, specific purposes for a journey. So you know, we journey every night, believe it or not, and we shamanic journey every night. And it's called the dream state. Shamans are also quite capable in the dream time. So some people
and
call
Alex said it was unfair that you get to do the same work that I do, but I got to be awake. I'd be there with a client, you'd be like, I'm going to go take a nap.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of conscious awake, conscious dreaming. You know, lucid dreaming, that's also the realm of shamans that oftentimes will be waking up tired and like, what do you mean? You slept 10 hours? I'm like, yeah, I was quite busy. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
So I had a habit at this one house I lived in that every afternoon when I got home, I would take a nap on this couch. And I had this vortex I had built up over the years. And I think Geralyn experienced it a few times, that would instantly kind of knock people out. And they would just be kind of like, oh, wow, it feels good sitting here. Like, yeah. And then, you know, fall asleep or they'd have an experience. But yeah, dreaming energy is a type of shamanic journey. But, you know, it's like anything that we have is if you focus and practice on it, it becomes a tool. Breath work is a shamanic way to journey. People might have heard of like Wim Hof. He's got like some world records for, you know, sitting in a bucket of ice or a bath of ice that most people would die of hypothermia. But he's used his breath to train his body and his will to surpass, you know, things that are medically, quote unquote, impossible. You know, and he uses that to shamanic journey. So yeah, all these tools, techniques to alter your consciousness to gather information and shape your reality the way you want. All right. So what's the consensus?
Looks like everybody said, or everybody who answered said, yeah, journey, yeah, let's go. Yeah, journey, I'm in, yeah, journey, yeah.
All right. So you have a Venmo account?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So everybody Venmo Geralyn $50, and then once we have your money, I wouldn't do that to you guys, but tell you what, if you're all ready to journey, I could do this right now. It's not the most
convenient place or whatever.
Well, I'm in a parking lot sitting under a shaded tree. Some places are more conducive. I mean, who can say, more perfect than others? I mean, every moment is perfect, but let's face it, full moon, beach in Hawaii, under the stars, fire, of course, my gorgeous self leading it, and gorgeous Geralyn St. Joseph giving me a hand, about as close to perfect as it can be, but what the heck? We all live in a virtual reality anyway.
Okay.
So if we're all ready to go.
My bowls or anything to start off with the bringing a bowl or anything, or do you just want to start?
Well, the most powerful thing we have, rattles, bowls, drums, they're just tools. But the most powerful and probably overlooked tool is breath and intention. So tonight we're going to just go ahead. For me, I'm on the East Coast Pacific, or you guys are on the East Coast. I'm sitting here in the Pacific Northwest, in 80, 90 degree weather and daylight. Usually we do these things kind of at twilight when the world is kind of separated by, or the veil between the worlds is kind of thin. But I could do this anytime, any place, because time and space are no barriers to consciousness. And Geralyn's heard me say this many times. So, so we're going to set our intention. Everybody wants to do a little journey. I'm like, all right. So everybody that wishes to make the journey, just focus on the idea of that. Yeah, we're going to do a shamanic journey and we're going to connect with everybody. So, Geralyn, you want to say a prayer of protection for us?
Take a deep breath and let it out slowly. And again. And release. There's a ball of white light above our heads. From it emanates shafts of light that enter us through the tops of our heads and fills us with its energy. Feel this energy as it courses through you, cleansing, balancing, connecting. It fills your head, into your throat, into your arms, down your waist, through your hips, down your legs. See yourself as glowing from within. The ball of white light energy expands and descends until it encompasses you and your space, giving you clear passage into the other world.
All right. With that, the circle is made sacred. All right. What I want everybody to do is just breathe in with me and breathe out. And I'm going to just kind of talk us through this. So, all right, as we breathe in and then breathe out, we are joining ourselves, our consciousness. The breath connects us all. It connects through time and space, everybody in this circle. So we breathe in and out. Remember, as we breathe in, we're breathing in the oxygen the trees give off of, and we'll breathe out. We're giving back carbon dioxide, which feeds the trees, and we breathe in and breathe out. And through the breath across time, we are breathing out what feeds the trees, and the trees breathe out what feeds us, and connecting us across time and space, breath. So as the dinosaurs breathed in and out, so we can connect with the dinosaurs. And as we breathe in and breathe out, we can connect with our ancestors from across time, across space. As we breathe in and breathe out, we can connect through time and space, forward and back, through all saints and sages of all religions, of all races, of all colors, of all planets. So breathing in, just imagine yourself, you're breathing in the future. And breathing out, you're breathing out the past. So breathing in, future, breathing out the past. Breathing in the future, breathing out the past. And as you breathe in that future, and you're breathing out the past, feel that space between breaths. That's the ever, the present, the eternal now. So you're breathing in the future and breathing out the past. Feel that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. Feeling that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider as you're breathing in the future and breathing out the past. Breathing in the future, breathing out the past. Feeling that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. There you go. Breathing in the future, breathing out the past. Feeling that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. The ever, the present, the now. And I want you to see yourself in your mind's eye. See yourself in your mind's eye. See yourself in your mind's eye as you're breathing in the future and breathing out the past. Breathing in the future and breathing out the past. Feeling that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. I want you to see yourself in your mind's eye. See yourself in your mind's eye as you're breathing in the future and breathing out the past, feeling that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. And as you see yourself in your mind's eye, see yourself in your mind's eye, just imagine yourself, see yourself walking out onto this great green meadow. As you're breathing in the future, breathing out the past, feeling that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. As you see yourself walking out onto this great green meadow, breathing in the future, breathing out the past, feeling that space between breaths, getting longer, deeper, and wider. Feeling that ever-present eternal now. As you're walking out onto this great green meadow, walking out on this great green meadow, you look out to the horizon. You see this magnificent tree. You're walking out onto this great green meadow, and you see this great tree on the horizon. And as you breathe in the future and breathe out the past, feel that space, that pause between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. And as you're walking closer and closer to that great tree on the horizon, you notice how that tree's branches and leaves reach up into the heavens. And as you look down its trunk, how its great roots bury itself down into the earth, reaching down into the center of the earth. And as you walk around the tree, you see a doorway. You see this doorway as you breathe in the future and breathe out the past, feeling that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. As you breathe in the future and breathe out the past, feeling that space between breaths, getting longer, deeper, and wider.
As you walk around this tree, you spy a doorway. This doorway is just for you. As you reach the doorway, stepping through the doorway, stepping through the doorway, stepping through the doorway, stepping through the doorway, remembering everything as you're breathing in the future and breathing out the past, feeling that space between breaths, getting longer and deeper and wider. And as your eyes become accustomed to the light inside the tree, you notice a stairway. And you start walking down the stairway, walking down the stairway, as you're breathing in the future and breathing out the past, as you feel that space between breaths getting longer and deeper and wider, walking down, down, walking down, remembering everything, walking down, down, and then off in the distance you see a glowing light. And as you walk down and get closer, you see a fire. And as you walk closer, you see this fire, and it's surrounded by beings, these glowing beings. And as you get closer, you notice they're your grandfathers and grandmothers, our ancestors that have gone before. And they embrace you and say, welcome. It's been a while since we've seen you. Welcome. Welcome. And feel the love and hear the knowledge and the secrets they have to share with you, the secrets of your lineage, the knowledge of your lineage, the lessons learned of your lineage as you breathe in the future and breathe out the past. And feel in that space between breaths, the ever, the present, the now. And remember, whatever you feel, whatever you see, whatever you hear, remembering everything as you breathe in the future and breathe out the past, as they embrace you and hold you. And as you breathe in the future and breathe out the past, know that you are they and they are you. As you feel that space between breaths getting longer and deeper and wider. And now just give it a moment or an eternity to enjoy their presence in that space. Remembering to breathe in the future and breathe out the past as you feel that space between breaths. And now it's time. It's time to say goodbye. And we'll see them again. And remembering everything, bringing all your awareness, all your consciousness as you breathe in the future and breathe out the past. Feeling that space between breaths, you turn back to the stairway, bringing back all of you up the stairway, back, bringing back all of you up the stairway, up the stairway, and now back through the doorway, bringing back all of your awareness, all of your consciousness, taking a deep breath in, deep breath out, back across the meadow, and then back into seeing yourself, inside yourself, breathing deeply, seeing yourself all back inside your body. I want you to just kind of rub your feet on the floor, flex your fingertips, and then slowly open your eyes and bring your awareness back to the here and now, remembering everything. All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Shaman Christopher. I'm going to wrap up this part of the series so that everybody can then talk out loud, and it will not be recorded. So if you enjoyed this, we are on Meetup. We are Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics. You can find Shaman Christopher on psychicinhawaii.com. And I will also put his contact information below when I post this so that you can contact him and get some one-on-one training or some healing. Thank you. Do you have anything else you want to say, David?
Yeah. For me, it's always a treat to hear people's experiences afterwards because they're always so different. Yet at the same time, they're all the same because, you know, we've all did the journey. It's a rough outline. You guys get to fill in the details, but depending on when, where, you know, who needs of the people that went on the journey, what they see, what they experience. And what's always amazing for me is the people who go, wow, I saw the same thing, or I experienced the same thing. Because I didn't write it. I just had an outline and you all filled in the spaces. And that's always, for me, a real treat because, as I said before, time and space are no barriers to consciousness and we're all connected. We're all one. You know, I just love this.
Awesome. So for privacy reasons, we're not going to record the
yes, please.
part where you guys are telling us things. But what I'd like you to start to do is, if you have a pen and paper, just write down what you experienced and let's see how similar our experiences are or what comes up as you're writing. And you could also put in the chat if you feel like you would like to. We are signing off. And again, if you enjoyed meeting Shaman Christopher Ilo, you can find him at psychicinhawaii.com. I will also put his contact information in the description below once this is posted on YouTube. And everyone, blessings. Mahalo.